So our driver's just getting ready now for the start. And I think we are here for the lights, so as we get ready for round 6 at Silverstone. The drivers are under starters orders, I believe. And they are indeed away. So Bruce maintaining first place, Jack coming up into second from third, Immortalist dropping back to third, and slight contact there, but not really making much of it as Immortalist sticks there in third. Murphy maintaining fourth, and Kovkar moving up to fifth place with Sub-Zero, and Kovkar now battling in sixth and seventh place for that sixth and seventh position. So it could be anybody to come into this tight left-hander. Kovkar looks like he's got the better of it. So we're Bruce, Law, Jack, Immortalist, Murphy, Kovkar, and Alright Turkish coming onto the Wellington straight, and that looks like it's Sub-Zero that's made a massive spin there, and Luke looks like he's gone round as well. So Sub-Zero and Luke there look like they are getting a little bit wide on the Wellington straight. It looks like Mark got a little bit tied up in that at the back as well, so Mark looks like he's struggling with the Toyota at the back there. So we go back on board with Jack and Immortalist that are currently battling here for second place. If you've just joined us, lap 1 of Silverstone, it couldn't be closer between second and third place here. So Jack Demenzi opting to cover that inside line there, just trying to make it difficult. Immortalist there, getting the switch back on him, managing the run up the inside, and it looks like he's made it stick, so a bit of a mistake there for Jack. A great camera angle there as they come into this tight left-right section. Jack trying to go around the outside, trying to take a wider line to take the cut back. Looks like he's got the front end in check and managed to miss the rubbers there on the inside, so Jack falling back a little bit now, but it does look like Murphy's managed to take a knock, so Murphy's dropped back from fourth place. Fortunately, we didn't catch that on the replay, but he does look like he's chasing CMC down, so CMC's made a few positions up as well. So CMC will be happy with this, so we'll stay on board with Murphy here just for a moment, just while he's catching up to the back of CMC. But it does look like potentially Sub-Zero and Murphy may have gotten a tangle there. Sub-Zero's dropped down the order, and he looks like he's sat now in 9th place. So Murphy just getting a little bit of a wider run there, and potentially a little bit more legs than CMC has as he closes up to him. CMC moving to the inside line, as you can see the clear pace that Murphy's got through, basically letting Murphy through there, which was good etiquette there from CMC. So Murphy now up to 6th place, and we'll now be closing Alright Turkish down. As we see Kovkar looks like he's closing up to the back of Jack Demenzi's there briefly, but as we see him coming onto that straight section there, it does look like a little bit of a gap has opened up. We'll try and go and take a look at Sub-Zero. So Sub-Zero, as he went round there and he got loose coming onto the Wellington straight section, it's like he's managed to drop back down that order. A couple of drivers having a dart out the way. Don't think there was too much contact in that action. Lap 2 now, as we go on board with Bruce, and we see him 1.5 seconds in front of Immortalist. He looks like he's managed to get a bit of a gap on Jack Demenzi's now, as they come into this really tight chicane section, high speed as much as it can, trying to maintain that momentum all the way through the corner without letting it run wide there. He doesn't quite clip the apex there, Jack, so that will allow Kovkar to try and close up to the back of him further, and he is in the air roll now. He'll be trying to use the benefit as much as he can of staying in the slipstream, but doesn't have quite the pace. And it's that Murphy we see trying to challenge in the background for Alright Turkish. He has a little look, but not quite close enough there. But much lighter on the brakes by the look with that Toyota. Turkish maintaining though. Just trying to make himself big on track, trying to take that wider line, just make sure that he keeps the car in check. Murphy all over the back of him now, and it looks like we've got a few battlers out on track. Murphy not managing to get the run as they come across the old pit straight now. Into this tight right-hander, down a couple of gears to try and get the car to stick here, don't want it to run wide. And Murphy not managing to get the move done there, but it does look like there's minor contact, so Turkish slowing up an awful lot there on the exit of that corner, potentially just spinning the wheels up there. Murphy not managing to stop in time, but doesn't look like there's too much damage to those vehicles. Potentially that might go to the inquiries. And Turkish just moving onto the inside line now. Murphy not getting the pace there. Oh, and Murphy makes contact there, so that will be one for the inquiries. Murphy potentially picking up damage there. And Turkish has dropped down quite a few places there, so that'll have to one for the inquiries, I think. But I'll come on board with Kovkarl and Jack that are still duking it out here. 40 minutes left in sessions. Kovkarl goes a little bit wide there and gets the back twitchy. Not losing too much time there. He will be kicking himself if that gets a bit of a gap there. He will be out of the aero section as he comes out of the S's here, and he's on for the straight, which is going to be a lot of speed loss there. So potentially by the end of that straight, the Toyota's going to pick up another half a second on him. And Old Smoky looking like he's catching up with Murphy now. Old Smoky in 6th place. Looks like he's caught up with the back of Murphy due to the incident with Alright Turkish, but potentially due to damage, because there was definitely contact with the rear quarter of Turkish's car coming into that corner. So I'm wondering whether he's potentially picked up damage there, and Old Smoky not managing to maintain it. So potentially Dirty Air there, making that more difficult to get the rear of the car down. And that lets CMC and Sub-Zero catch up to the back of Old Smoky there. So CMC running a little bit wide. Looking like these cars struggling with the curbs on the outside of the course here at Silverstone. It isn't the warmest of track. These tyres may be running a little bit colder than optimum for hards if these drivers have picked to hard tyres. Ideally, the GT1s, they can carry enough fuel and can go on a zero-stop strategy. At Zhuhai, we did see the guys trying to opt for zero-stop strategies, as we see him going really wide there, so that'll be a slowdown, and Alright Turkish will be looking to catch him up there. But Sub-Zero still chasing Old Smoky down. Old Smoky just trying to get back, recovering from that previous spin as he goes really wide there. And he's going to have to be careful when he rejoins track there. That's going to be CMC that comes past an Alright Turkish. And it is Alright Turkish. Looks like he's made his way through CMC there. So Alright Turkish back up into 7th place. And Casey Redwood coming through from the back of the grid now. So Casey Redwood moving back up from, all the way back from down from 12th place. And managing to get up into 9th place. So right in the thick of it here at the back of this grid. It is quite close here. And it looks like our leaders have managed to space things out a little bit. Excuse me. But certainly not the back of the grid here. So a battle for essentially what is ultimately 7th place, with Turkish leading this Wolfpack here at the back now. Sub-Zero managing to get away in 6th with a little bit of a gap, 3 to 4 seconds on that. But CMC is in hitting distance, certainly within the next couple of corners. Less than a second in it, as Turkish goes a little bit wide there, see if he can catch it on the way out. But I think that's all the way around. It is all the way around, and that's his CMC go through and KC go through. So another position picked up there from KC. Old Smoky following back through in 9th, so trying to regain his positions. And I think Old Smoky potentially may have gone round again there with Mark Reed just retaking in there. So all change at the back of the grid. And it looks like there's lights out and potential damage there. So we'll come back to these guys at the back of the grid in just a moment or two. Over to our leader on lap 5, 35 minutes or so left to go in our session. Not a million miles away from 2nd place, so Immortalis and Bruce still duking it out here. Bruce with a comfortable gap, but he certainly can't switch off with quite a while left in our within our round 6 session at Silverstone here. Jack's fallen a little bit behind now in the red and white Toyota. Our number 27 car just lacking the pace of the other two in front. Lap times just coming in again like we expected, 1:53, 1:54, a couple of seconds slower than we saw in qualifying. But Jack's still keeping up with pace here, relatively, and again 3rd position looks like it's Jack's most comfortable position in this championship. That'll be his third spot, I believe, so far this season. So Jack going good guns, but he looks like potentially the back tyres getting a little bit away from him there, as he took the inside and took a little bit too much of that rubber. As we go over to Kovkar now. Kovkar currently 5th in our standings overall, 80 points or so on the leaderboard. Hunting down Alright Turkish, who's currently in 4th spot. So Alright Turkish has dropped away down that grid after that incident. And it looks like Luke's potentially pitted. So, from what we had being a 12 car grid, he's down to now a 10 car grid. With Luke just exiting the pit lane there. But it looks like we have lost Sub-Zero in that calamity, so it looks like Sub-Zero has been removed from session, unfortunately, and CMC, sorry, so CMC F1 and Sub-Zero will leave our session, and it is only the beginning of our session, so unfortunately they may not pick the points up here for this session, so that difficult season that CMC is having currently in 11th place won't be getting any better after today's result. So back over to the guys that were originally at the back of our grid, but now are managing to make their way up to 6th and 7th place. We're on board with Casey Redwood, again another Toyota 27, so a popular choice here today. The 27 Toyota. Again, it does have a lot of pace, particularly when it starts to stretch its legs in the higher gears. So Red will be trying to capitalise that, but because of that extra pace, he does suffer in the corners with a bit of understeer, which Redwood does look like he's struggling with 2:01 lap time, so not the quickest lap times here by a good 5 or 6 seconds or so, but certainly consistent enough at this stage to see him in front of the guys that are struggling to get to grips. As we see one of them there just in the background, look there, getting out of the way of drivers that will be lapping him there, I believe. I think that will be a blue flag condition for Luke there, with a couple of minutes in his overall race pace distance from our leaders. So that is a shame to see Luke struggling again with the Porsche, but again he's been struggling with that this season. Did look like he was improving over the last couple of races, but with the particular camber that you get at Silverstone and the requirement for punching the car much close towards its race pace as it can go, with it being such a high demanding circuit, I think that's struggling, making Luke struggle a little bit, again with that Porsche. So the shorter wheelbase there potentially making him struggle a little bit in that car. So Luke coming up currently in 9th place. Does it look like we've lost another driver? So potential connection issues here, I might even hazard to say. We will review that after a race, as we see CMC going round there. Is that in front? No, I do apologise, that's Old Smoky going round there. So the Mercedes not completely out of the blue from spinning. We know we can't set a quick lap, Old Smoky, but it does look like he's struggling here in Silverstone. Again, I think it's the camber around here and just the tendency to want to take one or two of the corners with just a little bit of that rubber more aggressive than you would do normally, because the front end slip and the adverse camber here. So Old Smoky really struggling there. We're back on board with Murphy now, so Murphy getting involved in a bit of a tangle early on in this race with Alright Turkish, with a couple of minor incidents, and then what looked like quite a severe incident after that. It doesn't look like he's picked up too much damage, or certainly managing to maintain the front end of this car so far, but it does look like it's sporting just a little bit of a bus slip on the front left there. But 157's been put in from Murphy so far, which is again a couple of seconds away from what he was putting in qualifying. A little bit better from Murphy we expected to see from his qualifying race play. So potentially minor damage on the front end here, might be just slowing him down just a touch. But Murphy currently out in 5th place. Again, we did say Murphy was second in the championship here, 109 points that Murphy's got. So, and a bit of a gap between him and Speedy Gonhog, who's absent today. So the next closest driver to him is Alright Turkish in 4th. So not surprised there are a little bit of battling for position there on track between these two drivers. Unfortunate that it did get a little bit tasty there though. So, but Murphy currently in 5th place, so will look to pick up 23 points from fifth place, so that will see him continue to increase that gap there in second place. So not completely bad news for Murphy, as we see Old Smokey in the pits, sir. So I think Old Smokey is potentially coming in for damage there and potentially getting that aero repaired on that Mercedes. Didn't look like he took too much of the wall there, so hopefully not too much. It doesn't look like he spent too long in the pits either. So as we see Bruce Law coming past there, so we'll see if we can get a customary ride along with Bruce Law. As we come down here onto, I believe this is the Wellington Straight. So tight right-hander just after is particularly difficult. Tendency to want to understeer on that corner is probably about as bad as it's going to get on that corner on this track. As you come up now, top gear again, down 2 gears into that fast right-hander, looking not to get the tyres on the rubbers on the outside, and potentially spinning there, and into the S section, one of the most difficult sections, with it throws the weight and balance of the car around something quite terrible, and does require quite a dynamic setup on the car there. As he comes out of Beckett's, down through onto the hanger straight. We're getting top gear here for the quick right-hander at Stowe, and tendencies for the back to want to twist out there and get a power slide on can be maintained, and hard on the brakes into the left-right section at Village, and sorry, probably at Luffield and down onto Woodcut. So that was our customary ride along lap with Bruce Law. Currently putting 154s in, but we know he is capable of a 151. But comfortably out in front of Immortalist, who currently sits 3 seconds behind him in this race. So Immortalist not putting too much of a foot wrong here, managing to maintain his position, and slowly but surely Bruce just edging away. But certainly maintaining in his distance to Jack de Mendez, the next guy in the red and white Toyota, who's currently up in 3rd place. So similar lap times being put in by Immortalist and Jack. Again, Jack just pipping Kovkar on his lap times again. So about a second or so, or just half a second, splitting these guys between the lap times between 1st and 4th place. And Murphy dropping back down now to a 158. So Murphy was previously putting a 155 lap times, 156 lap times, but it looks like he's struggling with the tyres here. So potentially the Toyota getting a bit more difficult to handle as the tyres get that little bit warmer, or potentially the minor damage he picked up on the front end there taking its toll over the course of this race. But 25 minutes left to go in session here. As we come aboard with Alright Turkish, it looks like Alright Turkish is catching up to the back of Casey Redwood here. So Turkish doesn't look like he's coming to get any damage repaired, and did have a minor spin after that contact with Murphy, but potentially didn't take up any of the rest of the track, so it was just a little bit of rear end damage. So potentially he's got the a couple of adjusters in that car sorted and managed to get back on track. He looks fairly stable coming through that right-hander there, so as he comes through Maggots and Beckett's, not looking too out of shape there, so but is losing the front end a little bit, so potentially just going a little bit too deep there rather than damage to the car. Not managing to catch up with Casey at this stage, but his lap times are certainly better than Casey's on the previous lap. Struggling to get it together in the dirty air potentially from Turkish here. So as they come across that starting line, yep, so Turkish again putting in slightly quicker lap time, so we are going to see him trying to hound Redwood here for that 6th place. He's going to make that gap that he's got between himself and Speedy Gonhog close up the more positions that he can get. Potentially Speedy Gonhog obviously not picking up any points here this evening. And he's going to try and get him closer to a top 3 position in our championship. So taking a little bit inside there, we'll be running the risk of getting the race director involved there for track limits, so maybe having to slow down there. So 2 steps forward and 1 step back here it looks like for Turkish at the moment. Casey Redwood managing to maintain, keeping his composure and not really altering his lap times. He's maintaining consistently around about the 2:2:01 mark for his lap times. So like I said, Turkish putting in a little bit quicker lap times than that, but it's not just about the lap times. You've actually got to get round the guy once you're up there with him, and with the turbulent air particularly being affected with how much the Toyota shifts the air out the way, particularly at high speed, is going to make it difficult for the Mercedes. So as we come down Hanger Straight now into Stowe Corner, difficult corners, the car tries to step out into Vale, and hard on the brakes for Club. So Casey pulling away a little bit now, so potentially getting to grips with that car, but Turkish again back within a second of him, just there or thereabouts. So these two really maintaining a second or so here, and not really making the gains that we would like to see. But we have seen a 209 from Murphy, so is that a potential spin that we've just seen from Murphy though? Does look like that's Luke behind him, so I think potentially he's gone past Luke there. Murphy may well have the Toyota may well have got the better of Murphy. So 209 last lap from Murphy, not a great lap time though. We'll be looking to do better this lap. Does look a little bit twitchy, that number 29 Toyota. Not quite seeing quite the same amount of play in that front end with some of the other Toyotas there, so it does look like damage is playing its part though. So about 8 seconds behind, sorry, about 12 seconds behind Murphy here, the battle for 6th place. And still just about a second in it, just closing that gap up a little bit now. So Turkish coming onto the back of Casey Redwood into the Margaret Beckett section again, and manages to maintain the front end, and there's the run. So, and just getting the inside tyres on that on the apron there, just forcing the car into that wall. That was a big hard hit from Turkish there. That is definitely going to affect the front left turnability of that car, which is possibly the worst tyre you can affect around here. So that is really going to seriously decimate his lap time. So I would expect to see lap times falling off here from Turkish, or potentially even an early pit stop. So we stay on board with him with Turkish here to see whether he does come into the pits. Not this time around, so he's not coming to the pits this time. So thinking the better of it, but that is going to see Casey Redwood trying to get away there. Still about 11 seconds between Casey Redwood and Murphy, so Casey Redwood not closing that gap up, but we'll have a little bit of breathing room now. So 20 minutes left in this session. Bruce Law currently out in front and setting the fastest laps of our session, of our race session today. Fastest laps during our qualifying, so Bruce Law on for the 1-2-3 clean sweep here today. So far been a great drive from Bruce, not really seen him put a foot wrong, not really seen his lap times drop dramatically. So far a flawless drive at this stage. Closely behind him, 6 seconds behind him. Bruce pulling away ever so slowly, like I said, edging away from him throughout the course of this race, but certainly can still see him in the distance there. As Immortalist is coming up about 5 to 6 seconds behind him. But another good performance here from Immortalist. We'll see him grab another second spot victory if he manages to maintain this in our GT1s. So that will be another 30 points for him here if he manages to stick this out. Going up in third place is Jack, and again another guy in one of our red and white Toyotas, a common feature here today, obviously for top speed reasons, as we get a little flash of lights there from Jack. Currently in our standings, Jack sat in 6th place with 77 points, so another third spot here from Jack. We'll see him try and catapult him up above Kovkar. Kovkar currently got 80 points in front of him, so not a lot of difference in point standards here between the guys. So it might not be enough to try and close that gap up. They might be level on points after this race actually. So that'll be a fight in the standings for ultimately for 5th place between Kovkar and Jack de Menzies there. So one to watch for the standings. Just take a little muck on board with all right Turkish again as he sets to close up with the back of Casey Redwood again here. What's the action coming up for a battle between 6th and 7th place here after the initial all that action that we had at the start, and then the action dropping towards the back of the field as the front leg grid spaced out. So just while we've got a moment, tell you a little bit about our race calendar. Next on our race calendar we will have, as per usual, our Formula Renault event, which happens regularly on Sunday mornings. That's 10:30 AM UK time on a Sunday morning, if you are unfamiliar with our event schedule. And I believe this week the Formula Renaults will be at Solder. Let me just double check that for you. Yes, I believe they are. So quite a challenging track Solder for our Formula Renault drivers with all those curbs on there. So but do tune in on Sunday morning to catch that, and just following that, as we see, sorry, just go back to the action there, we see Turkish trying to get a look down the inside there. He thinks better of it on this occasion, certainly still sticking with Casey Redwood there, and we're looking to try going down the inside there, but not quite close enough on this corner, and can be a tendency to want to make the car spin there, but certainly better on the exit there in Casey Redwood. These guys go toe to toe, side by side. Didn't look like there was contact there, but a slight over rotation from Orak Turkish, or potentially the Europlane effect there. Made him back out of that, but doing the right thing there and backing out of that corner and sitting back in the slipstream again. So Turkish will think better of it here. Still 16 minutes or way to go left in the session here, and tries it through turn 1, not quite up the inside there, so backs out again. And very frustrating when you sat behind a driver that is quick on the straights, and then when you get into him in the corners, just about closes the door just in time before you get alongside him. But it looks like Turkish has got quite up alongside him now, just enough to make it stick. Will he make it stick on the inside here? Casey Redwood has to slow as he goes around the outside. Yep, and that's Turkish through. So Turkish up to 6th place. Finally getting that manoeuvre done, which he'll be feeling much better about that now. Like weight has lifted, and he'll try and stretch his legs there to try and get a bit of distance between himself and Redwood, so he can't benefit from that slipstream. But again, we'll be struggling with damage there, Turkish, from taking impact from that front left. A heavy hit into the wall out, so I expect a good wobble to that suspension leg if he's going through any large right hand corners. I'll have to be taking it particularly gingerly. So yeah, sorry, as I was saying, that we're coming up to Sunday evening is our GT3 event, and that comes at 8 PM regular on a Sunday evening, and that will be hosted by Murphy and the Console. GT3s this week, again for round 6. GT3s are at Bruno Circuit, so and you can find me out on track for that one. So if you want to come and support your local commentator, then come feel free to tune in at 8 o'clock on Sunday evening UK time and give me a little bit of support. So back to our action on track here, and it does look like Casey Redwood has taken a pit stop. So whether that was because he was losing out in the fight with Turkish and that car's getting away from him, or whether that is due to tyres, but he's just about coming in. As we also see Bruce coming in, so that's Bruce Law pitting. We see our race leader pitting. I've seen Immortalist go past him. So how quick of a pit stop will this be for Bruce Law? As you see Casey Redwood just in the distance there, his pit crew just running into action. And that will be Jack de Menezes coming around that corner there. It is indeed, as Bruce will still be in the pit lanes now. Jack coming past him for second place. And Bruce not quite on the exit there, so is that damage being picked up there for Bruce? Quite a lengthy pit stop there, they kept him in for quite an amount of time. Potentially engine damage or not opening that radiator enough. Could have seen him getting the spanners out under the engine bay there if he'd not asked him not to. And comes through there, so Casey Redwood just letting our third place, as it is at this stage, come through there. So Bruce got him back on track in third place, but like I said, that has seen Jack de Menezes leapfrog in front of him into second place with an 18-second gap now, as we see Old Smoky coming into the pits for what looks like a second time. So again, this could be tyres for Old Smoky now, so as opposed to damage, and this could be its natural pit stop point. So Old Smoky coming into the pit stops there. I think that is Murphy coming past there. I believe it was. That's Murphy just lapping Old Smoky in the pits there. Murphy still out in 5th place. Hasn't really seen him change position in the standings here with people pitting. So 4th and 5th are not affected by the pit stops at this stage. But Jack de Menezes certainly has been affected by this. So Jack de Menezes currently in 2nd place, and if he can maintain this position without managing to come in within the next 12 minutes, then that'll be 2nd place podium, and will have given Immortalist UK his first race win in the GT1s, I believe, and potentially his first race win for FluxMotorsport in only his 2nd week within our championship, I believe. Oh, sorry, within the community in its entirety. So not too long left in our session, just over the 10-minute mark to go, and 26 seconds between Bruce and Immortalist at this stage. 25 actually. Is that Bruce just taking a spill in the background? No, I think that was potentially a different driver. Apologies there. Somebody certainly take a spill as Immortalist went past him at this page. Potentially could have been the white car of Luke Snipes, or potentially Luke getting out of the way there as our race leader comes through. Currently putting in 1:56 lap times, so again lap times dropping slowly but surely as the track has looked like it's continued to warm. So the clouds clearing a little bit, and it's up to 32 degrees now track temperature, so potentially why we've seen the guys coming in for some tyre changes, potentially switching from soft to hard tyres there. So we might see that lap time from Bruce coming down from what we were seeing within the 1:55, 1:56 6 lap times, all the way back down to a 1:51, 1:52. So that will be interesting to see. We'll keep an eye on that. Shouldn't affect too much our overall standings for our championship leader, but Immortalist coming in 1st place will certainly try and throw things around the middle of the pack, because that will see him leapfrog and jump in front of a couple of drivers, potentially CMC, potentially Old Smoky. He might get the jump on those guys there, so Immortalist will be rubbing his hands together and hoping that he doesn't have to pit and trying to make this stick. And that just comes up to the back of Alright Turkish there, at the end of Wellington Straight. Turkish just gets out of the way there as he comes through on the inside, not losing too much time overall there for Turkish. And into that difficult right hand section. Not too much understeer here for Immortalist, so it looks like he's got the understeer issue sorted with that Toyota. A little bit better than some of our other drivers. The number 29 livery he's gone for in the Toyota. So do look out for that distinguishing number next time you see that red and white Toyota out in our GT1 Championship. He's going a little bit of a different way with the number 29. And quite a considerable gap that he's got now with 10 minutes, just under 10 minutes left in our session now. 20 seconds gap to Jack de Mendes just behind him in the 27 livery Toyota. And just behind him, you saw just running potentially just a little bit wide there, was Bruce. But again, we did expect those lap times to come down quite considerably, and they have for Bruce also. Bruce putting in 1:52s now, and that gap to Jack de Mendes is closing up fast. So we'll try and stay on board with Bruce here for the next few corners to see whether he can push that envelope, keep those fresh tyres in the zone, and catch all the way back up to Jack and reclaim at least one of the positions that he's lost in this race. Quick through that right-handed corner there, managing to stick it, not getting too wide of the rubbers, which is always the tendency. And again, not a car that doesn't suffer from understeer the panels, but it's certainly more poised and balanced than the Toyota can be, and a bit more manoeuvrable. So 2 seconds up in between his last lap to the back of Jack de Mendes now. So Jack will be looking to try and fend him off. Got 7 minutes. It's going to be a big ask for Jack. Try and maintain that kind of pace at this stage. But Jack is putting in still not too slow of a lap time with a 1:55. But I do expect that to get closed down and him to potentially to be fighting toe to toe with Bruce. But that is going to slow Bruce down. It is going to prevent him trying to catch up to Immortalist in first place, and that gap between first and second, that 20-second gap, could well grow and grow. So we'll keep an eye on that. We'll try and keep you posted with the timings as we see that yellow marker coming up, as Bruce gets himself within a second and potentially within the slipstream of that Toyota now. So as the battle commences, does look like it's managing to push Jack a little bit further closer to the back of Immortalist though, with that gap just dropping half a second or so to 19.5 second gap. And a little bit wide there from Bruce, and see what the lap times come out across the timing line. So again, 1:53s, 1:55s from Bruce and Jack. And I expect by the end of this lap, Bruce will be catching up to him. But that will mean that Immortalist probably won't be pitting for the rest of this race, and may well be getting his first race win. As Bruce comes up there onto the inside of Jack de Mendes on the back of the Wellington Straight, as he comes in on the inside, hard on the brakes. And Jack doesn't fight too much for that position, but does look for the switchback as Bruce goes a little bit squiffy and has to cut the grass. The car over rotates there, so Jack getting away with it on this occasion. but Bruce will be looking to try and get that run back up there to him. So minor mistake there from Bruce, sorry, rare mistake that we don't see too often, but potentially trying to push a little bit too hard with those fresh tyres on, causing him to get a little bit squiffy on the inside of that corner there. It is limited grip and he will be on the marbles there, and just on the exit of the corner, the back over rotating. So work to do again here from Bruce, but it does look like he has let on Immortalis stretch a little bit more of a gap in front between second and first place between himself and Jack, as the second and third place battle recommences now as Bruce comes within a second of Jack's rear end here. Again, a lot of aero is going to be redistributed by that Toyota, with it being the shape of a wing, so that's not going to help Bruce as he gets behind the Toyota here, and you do get an effect from the car behind pushing the air in front, and it does tend to upset the balance of the car in front as well. So almost nose to tail here as we come across the line. 4 minutes left in session, next to nothing between these two drivers, and Jack maintaining, but Bruce trying to get on the outside now. He's hard on the brakes, so that's going to be hard to stick it on the inside there, and Bruce almost over rotates again there, so potential lock up when he's hard on the brakes from the rear. Potentially a brake overheating issue there. Jack goes a little bit wide. He will be maintaining speed though, but that could be a slowdown there from the race director, so he may have to let Bruce through here, not wanting to, and knowing this is where Bruce went round last time, and he goes again. A slightly different place though this time, and it snaps on him the other way, but Jack just about getting away with it here again, and he lives to fight another day. So all that action in the final few minutes here between second and third place. We've got Jack de Mendes and Bruce Law currently battling for this position out on track. And in terms of our standings for GT1, it's a battle between first and sixth place, but we know Jack's quick, and we know some of his points will drop there due to a unfortunate absence in the first couple of rounds. So a couple of minutes left in session here. Immortalis looking like he's going to run away with this one, as we are on lap 22 and on board with Bruce Law and Jack de Mendes. Bruce Law looking like he's starting to catch up to the back of Jack again now, and Jack will be conscious that there is a back marker in front of him. I think that was All Rice Turkish in the black and orange livery, Mercedes CLK there, as Jack comes across the timing line, but much to all that's being set by Jack and Bruce now as they start to push each other, 158s and 159s respectively, which is the slowest I think we've seen from these guys at this stage. It's certainly a far cry from the 152s we've seen in the previous lap. And Jack still being hounded here as he goes wide a little bit again there on this start of the the Wellington straight section. Bruce thinking the better of going down the inside there this time, looking to try and get the run, taking a slightly deeper line as he tries to get the power down earlier on the exit out the corner, which he does indeed do, but it's not quite enough legs to get past that Toyota, as we see it spitting flames out the back there. There's just a minute left in session now. He's got it all to do here to try and get second place, as Jack goes a little bit wide and it looks like it snaps on him, and just about regains composure before taking the wall out there, but that moves Bruce up to second and Jack down now to third place. So Bruce on the back of All Right Turkish and having to contend with the back mark here, but does the deed just before he gets to him. And that's Turkish under blue flagging out the way as Bruce comes through. So Bruce has made it back up into second place. That gap has dropped now to 18 seconds to Immortalis UK, but with 30 seconds left remaining in the session here, that will be the start of the last lap here, I think, for Immortalis, and let's see if we can get on board with him as he comes through his last lap. and go into cockpit cam, we can indeed try and get the map up for you and the speed up for you, as we can see where he's on track. And again, he's hard on the brakes in from Brooklands into this tight right-hander that is Loffield. Through Woodcote and across the line, so that'll be the first race win for Immortalis. Well done, Immortalis. Great race there. Looks like Bruce will be coming in second place, so a rare second place for Bruce Law. Jack de Mendes looks like he'll grab third spot, so again 3 3s for Jack de Mendes. Kovkar looks like he will grab fourth spot on our grid today. In fifth place we'll see Murphy come in after the contentious incident with All Right Turkish, so potentially a steward's inquiry and a couple of words with those drivers after this race. We'll bring you what happens and a roundup of the action in our next race for that. It sees Casey Redwood picking up 7th place. I think that's potentially his best result so far with Flux Motorsport. So great news for Casey Redwood. And Old Smoky, it sees in 8th place. So it does mean that we've had a few drivers retire. We've had overall 4 drivers retire from this session. So Sub-Xerox, CMC, both suffering from an early disconnection there. So they unfortunately won't be picking points up, but we'll take a review with the drivers and find out exactly what happened there, and bring that action again in a roundup just before next week's race. But again, a great drive here from Immortalis. New driver with us, supporting the North East colours, so great to see him out here, great to see him get his first win, and that will make a interesting final couple of races for round 7 and round 8 in our championship for GT1s. So he's going to see a bit of a mix up in our overall standings, with a couple of upsets there. Jack again getting a 3rd spot from being 7th in our standings. We'll try and see him try to leapfrog up a couple of places. And the battle we've got between Kovkar, Murphy, All Right Turkish and Speedy Gone Hog has not gone anywhere. That is still on, like Donkey Kong. So just as the drivers come through the final sections now, and count down the race timer for in session. Yeah, the drivers just coming through to get the cars return to the pit box now. So again, it's been a wonderful race, a lot of action at the start and end of this race this evening. A little bit of spacing out during the front runners towards the middle section, but certainly great action from our GT1 guys, and a hotly contested championship continues into our next round. So again, I've been your host, Lecky2000. Like I said, if you like what we're doing here, feel free to hit the like and subscribe button. The bell notification will get you notified about our videos. Feel free to go to Facebook, Twitter and Instagram on our social media pages and try and give us some support there. And if you've got some extra cash, then try and hit the donate button on our website at FluxMotorsport.com, because that goes a very long way for our community. So I've been your host, like I said, Lecky2000. Thanks very much for joining me this evening, and I'll see you next time.